Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stuart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. And we're fortunate to have Steve Fletcher on with us tonight, and Larry. Steve, you with us?
Yeah. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Oh, no problem. And Larry, how are you doing down there in the Southland?
Hey, guys, I'm here.
Okay. I don't know, where do we want to start with this? There's a lot going on everywhere. It's behind the scenes, and it looks kind of like nothing is going on, but really there's a lot of stuff going on in the background. But Steve, why don't you're talking about this 411, and I've been investigating this 411 mystery now for a couple of years, trying to figure out what this thing means. And here are some of the things that they say happened in the past. April 11th, Passover fulfilled by Jesus Christ. April 11th, 1914, Passover in the year World War I begins. April 11th, 1933, Passover, and Hitler passes the first anti-Semitic laws on that very Passover. April 11th, 1996, Comet Hyakutake crosses the star Algol. That's Satan's head for you folks, if you're not aware of it. And on April 11th, 1997, Comet Hale-Bopp crossed the star Algol, and forming a perfect cross right over Algol's or Satan's head. If you do a little research on that, you'll find a lot of information about Algol. It's got a very nefarious kind of connotation to the ancients. Anyway, April 11th, 1998, Passover in Israel's 50th year and 50th Passover. April 11th, 2012, 8.6, 8.2 earthquakes off of Indonesia. This will also were the 49th and the 50th magnitude 8 plus quakes since 1948 and the birth of Israel. Kind of interesting. April 11th, 2009, Susan Boyle sings the Swan Song of Humanity, A Dream to Dream, on Britain Got Talent. April 11th, 2022, is anything going to happen? And then in Revelation 4:11, Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power. For thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created. And kind of interesting that we would have a 411 code. And by the way, chapter 4 of Revelation is after the church age has closed. Anyway, that kind of sets it up. What have you found, Steve, you want to bring to our attention?
Well, I've been seeing that you have been following this 411 code for quite a while now, and as we've been watching, our ministry and our calling is to watch the signs, yes, to see how everything lines up with the Hebrew calendar, any convergences that are taking place between the signs and the dates, the specific dates which are in the Bible called appointed times. And so, Jesus at his first coming fulfilled all of the appointed times of the spring, right? He fulfilled the triumphal entry date of Nisan 10, and then he was killed on Passover. He rose up on first fruits. And so as we have been watching, one thing that's really interesting this year is that 411, between 411 and 412, or between 412 and 413, depending on which calendar you're looking at, the Hebrew and the Torah calendar, But based on the new moon, it would be February. It would be April 11th and April 12th is the date of the triumphal entry. Okay.
Yes.
Now, when we look at the triumphal entry date, I mean, we have to consider the powerful prophetic revelations that have taken place in history on the date of the triumphal entry. The prophecy of Zechariah was given about the daughter, to the daughter of Zion, behold, your king is coming to you, humble and mounted on a donkey, even on a colt, the foal of a donkey. And it was on the date of the triumphal entry that this prophecy was fulfilled. And the Messiah was actually revealed to Israel on 10 Nisan, the 10th day of the first month, 4 days before Passover. And so what we are seeing then is that throughout history, right, the 10th day of the first month was the day they set aside the Passover lamb. In the book of Exodus, when God gave the calendar to Moses, Nisan 10 was the day they set aside the Passover lamb. They had to do 4 days of examination of the Passover lamb to make sure that it was a spotless lamb and worthy to be sacrificed, right? They had to make sure it was perfect and worthy to be sacrificed. And so this is, it was so interesting that when Jesus came in on a donkey on Nisan 10, then what did you have leading up to Passover? You had 4 days of questioning the authority of a trial, and he had to go through this scrutiny of all of the religious leaders and of the governors. And then, before they crucified him, they had to declare him clean. Pilate and Herod both declared that he was clean, and Pilate said, I wash my hands of this innocent man. And he washed his hands and declared Jesus Christ innocent, right? He said, if you want to crucify him, you guys go ahead and crucify him. I find nothing wrong with him. And so that was part of the prophecy. And so we're watching the importance of 2022. In one of your last programs, Stuart and Larry, you guys mentioned, you were talking about the importance of 2022. And you see all of these convergences that are happening, like from the destruction of the temple and the canceling of the sacrifices all the way back in 587 BC. Okay, going forward 1,290 years brings us to 687 AD and the setting up of the abomination, the Dome of the Rock, right?
Yes.
And we have that 1,290 years, and then from the setting up of the Dome of the Rock, you have 1,335 years, bringing us to 2022. And so we have this prophecy of Daniel 12, verses 11 and 12. From the canceling of the sacrifices, there will be 1,290 days, which is a year for a day. Prophecy could imply a year for a day, 1,290 years, and then blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1,335 days. So now in 2022, everything that's happening with Ukraine and Russia and this, I mean, really, we're so close to what is nuclear war with all of the news that is coming out, even this next week, on what is going to be basically Passover on April 15th. That is the same day that North Korea celebrates one of their anniversaries. And they're talking about doing a nuclear test exactly on their anniversary on April 15th. Well, that's Passover. I mean, why would this all coincide with the biblical calendar and a nuclear test being done exactly on Passover? So is 2022 lining up to be a very important year? And is Nisan 10 a day that we should be watching, because that was the day, okay? Jesus was revealed as Messiah on Nisan 10. Nisan 10 was the day that Israel went into the Promised Land. In Joshua 4:19, it says, the people came up out of the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month. So they went into this is the whole story of Egypt and coming out of Egypt and going through the wilderness. That whole dispensation, that whole time frame ended, and that whole trial time ended when they went into the Promised Land on the 10th day of Nisan, right?
Yep.
And so we got this. Now, what really has made me focus on this specific day over the last few days was this event that took place at the White House, which, if we're watching carefully based on the Hebrew calendar, April 5th, Tuesday, April 5th, was Nisan 3, okay? The new moon of Nisan was not spotted in Israel on Saturday, April 2nd. April 3rd was Nisan 1 in Israel.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Are they paying any attention to that on their, as far as the nation is concerned, or did they start Nisan 1 and pay no attention to when the moon was sighted?
The Hebrew calendar is basically set up where they just follow a pre-set calendar. They don't watch the new moon to figure out has the month started yet. They just go by what's written. They plan it out ahead of time and they just follow that. So they may have shown Nisan 1 on Friday, April 1st. Okay? But if we're watching the new moon, and I found 3 or 4 different sites that all confirmed that Saturday, April 2nd, the new moon had still not been spotted yet.
Yes.
In Israel,
I saw that.
Making Nisan 1 by default April 3rd to April 4th. Okay, so if we count Sunday as Nisan 1, Monday is Nisan 2, then we have Tuesday as Nisan 3. Okay, so on Tuesday, April 5th, Nisan 3, Obama had an event. He was back at the White House for the first time in 5 years. And he was presented as President Obama.
Yes.
Joe Biden presented himself as Barack Obama's vice president. Okay. And Barack Obama referred to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as his vice presidents.
Yes. Which means he's running it.
So what? Yeah. Which is, this is the clearest example of everything we've been watching over the last number of years, and all of the signs they have given to show us that Obama is the one running the show. This was the clearest and most defined example of everything that we've seen to date of Barack Obama being the one who is in charge.
Absolutely. Yep.
Now,
amazing.
This is, the Bible says that the coming of Christ will be as in the days of Noah. In the days of Noah, there was a 7-day warning given to Noah that he would go into the ark on the 10th day of the month, and that on the 17th day of the month that the rain was going to begin. And so he had a 7-day warning. He got in the ark, he got ready, and then the rain came, and the great flood. And Jesus said that his coming will be like the days of Noah. And so what came to mind as I was looking at this whole scenario and the importance of Nisan 3, the importance of this event, the clarity of the declarations that took place at the White House, was that a 7-day warning to the day that the Messiah will be revealed, because Jesus was revealed on Nisan 10. Okay?
Right.
And so will this coincide with the revealing or the appearance or the final manifestation of the Antichrist also on Nisan 10? Was that a 7-day
warning? Yeah, and there were an awful lot of Christians that were shown that Obama truly is the man that they better keep an eye on. And what was interesting, too, in that dissertation by Mr. Tram was that 2015 may well have been a 7-day warning, but the days were a year, which brings us to 2022. And there was a tremendous amount of stuff that went on in 2015, from the eclipse over the North Pole, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there was just a tremendous amount that went on. But the one thing he didn't mention that I think is extremely important about 2015, you may remember, that's when all those movies came out, ads came out, cartoons came out, articles came out. I mean, the media was saturated with 2015 and a Rapture event. They had all kinds of movies about it. Even the cartoons were showing. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the game came out, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. I think that came out in 2015, too.
Yeah, I really believe they thought this was going to be it, but in reality, it was a 7-day warning, but the days were a year. So we had a 7-year warning, and now, like you said, here's Barack Obama coming out announcing to the world, because everybody watched that, and he humiliated Biden. I mean, that was pure humiliation. And I kind of felt sorry for Biden. Because of the way Obama treated him. And like you just said, I mean, he announced to everybody, I'm running this show. What do you think, Larry, on that?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting that this time frame that he came out in, and I don't know if Steve's been watching it. I figure he probably has, but about the same time that this incident with Obama and Biden at the White House occurred, Bennett, the leadership of the government in Israel at the present time, Bennett's government, lost their, suddenly, right out of a clear blue sky, lost their majority.
Oh, and, you're right.
Well, here's a headline, actually today, as a matter of fact, I'll read this. This is Koenig's International News today. Says, at rally of supporters, Bibi Netanyahu calls on Israeli right to unite and return home to the Likud party in hopes of toppling the government and returning to power. So isn't it interesting that, and matter of fact, this energized Netanyahu. I've seen 3 or 4 different articles, not just Israel, but the UK and others that are following what's going on there. Of course, we're not in America, but is by chance something pivoting or happening in Israel or Israeli politics that might suddenly open a door for Netanyahu to come back to power? What do you think, Steve?
I don't know. I don't know. I know that we already went through 2 or almost 3 years of Israel being without a government, and there was a big prophecy by Rabbi Kaduri, Shoshani, and about Israel being run by 2 Benjamins, and yet they were unable to form a government. And now it's kind of like still going. This whole limbo is still going on here.
Yeah, it's almost like they don't really have a functioning government. And then we got Iran and the Daniel 8 he-goat and ram war, and it's I don't know what to tell people. The signs are everywhere, and you've been doing a great job trying to point all this stuff out. And I know a lot of people ridicule it and they think that that's just garbage. My opinion has always been, if you're a real Christian, don't you want Jesus Christ to return? No. The answer is no, they don't. Because they're in the world. And Jesus has a word for all these earth dwellers that say they're Christians. He says it's going to come as a snare upon you, and you're not going to know. Kind of like what Obama said about cruise missiles. You're not going to see it coming, he said. And I don't think he was...
Yeah, he said that about the drone. He was talking about the drones.
So it's kind of interesting. And here we have, you may remember, in 2014, they had the cows with the 7 on the number on the head. Clearly a number 7 on each one's head. Now what's interesting is the first one was a black and white, looks like not a Jersey, but maybe a Holstein calf that had the number 7 on it. And then right after that was a red heifer, which is very, very interesting to me, with the number 7 on it, on her head. Now, the red heifer, of course, is, if anybody knows the rituals in Israel, has everything to do with Jesus Christ and everything to do with purifications. So this is very interesting to me that the second heifer was a red heifer. And both of them occurred in 2014. However, if you begin your count 2014, you go 1 year, you're 2015. And 7 years later is what? 2022. And it goes back to Joseph and the dream. 7 fat years and 7 lean years. And what do we got at 2022 and 2021 being the pivot years? We're going into a lean 7-year period. And if Joseph's vision is correct, or dream, and we're interpreting it, bringing it forward, which we don't know if we can or not, but let's say we can, where does it, 2 years of partial harvest, that means this year next, and then, or maybe we go into 2023, 2024, and then we have 5 years. So it all ends in 2029, 2030. It just seems odd to me. It's just one more sign that we're here. And people are just mocking those signs. They're mocking them and saying, no, it's not now. It's way down the road. Well, in some ways you would wish they were right, but in other ways, why? Are we going to just abort another million babies? Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, I was just going to bring this up to get your opinion and Steve's. I doubt if you guys, either one, have been able to read it, but today or this morning, Hal Turner put up a covert alert, Intel restricted, subscribers only, and I'll give you the synopsis of it real quick here. He says that he has White House insiders that are communicating with him. They're saying that internal Biden reports indicate or predict a complete economic collapse of the EU, the European Union, within months. It doesn't say how many months, but it says within months, and their prediction is that the USA may completely have a collapse just suddenly within weeks after the EU collapse of its economy. What do y'all think?
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, we're headed that way. What do you think, Steve? I think all this is going to just come together. Sudden destruction.
Yeah, I mean, we're just so close. Everything is showing that famine, food shortages, nuclear war. I mean, whether it's the sun flares, earth changes, and all of the things that are happening just through nature, through the governments, it's all coming together. There's really not anything you can look at and say, hey, everything's normal,
No. But I guess people don't want to see it. There's another connection to 4/11. There's a fellow that's written a book about missing people in our parks. And, in fact, they've come out, Steve Danoon just did a thing on missing people in the parks, our national parks. And this has been going on for some time, but evidently it seems to be increasing. And now I would suggest maybe that the snatching of people may have everything to do with an alien, so-called fallen angel abduction, whatever it is, deep state, global deep state, doesn't really matter. What matters is these people, you can have a bunch of people even 10 feet from each other, and you turn around and one of them's gone, and there's no sign whatever of where they went or anything. And he's written several books, Missing 4/11. Just part of that overall mystery. Does this mean that a whole bunch of people will be missing on 4/11? The Triumphal. Now that would be the date, right, for the entry, Steve?
Yeah.
On the calendar.
Triumphal. Yeah, the Triumphal entry date is really, we celebrate Palm Sunday. On our calendars, we would look at, Sunday, April. What would that be? The 9th or the 10th? But the date is really the 11th or the 12th, based on the Hebrew calendar. So it's the same week. We're basically right there within a day or two. But it turns out to be 4/11 is Palm Sunday.
Wow.
The day of the triumphal entry.
What else have you got on that? We kind of interrupted you on that.
No, I mean, I think that, if 2022, I mean, if we saw all this information about 2022 and how important it is, we're seeing all of the signs that are happening now about 2022 that are happening right before our very eyes. If 2022 is the year in question, what day would be a day we could be watching for, or what are the series of days that we could be or should be watching, especially for some type of appointed time event? Mm-hmm. God gave us a calendar, and he called, the things that happen within his scope of revelations that he gives. They happen on appointed times. And he calls his calendar the appointed times or the appointed days. So 2022, I mean, I think that this day, this 4/11, the triumphal entry date, is as good of a day as any for this revelation or for the arrival to happen. Just the whole idea, putting together what is the triumphal entry and Israel entering into the promised land. That whole idea on the day of the triumphal entry. I mean, is that not a sign for us that this is a key day in God's calendar?
Well, I can't imagine why he had Hayakataki and Hail Bob cross over Elgal, Satan's head, more or less canceling Satan's hold upon at least the church. And why would you do that? I think people really need to ask, why would the Lord? I mean, you can't fake that. And it's clearly a sign from the Lord marking out a specific number. And I suppose you could say, well, 11/4 or November 4th is likewise a 4/11. But, you know, we've kind of investigated this. We're maybe going to find out, and let's say the bride of Christ were to be removed. I mean, it's got to happen sometime. I know a lot of people think, well, we got all this stuff that's got to happen first, but do we? Well, that's a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, here's a connection to the Greek concordance, the Strong's Concordance. 411 in the Greek concordance is the word for inexpressible. Thanks be to God for this indescribable, or for this unspeakable, or for this inexpressible gift. And it has to do with being fully declared, properly, inexpressible, beyond words, indescribable, impossible to estimate, is the meaning of 411. And if we go into 412, which I see the date of the triumphal entry on the Hebrew calendar would be somewhere between April 11th and April 12th, go into 412, and it's the same type of meaning, unspeakable. Properly unable to fully describe or report, impossible to communicate adequately by words, hence unutterable, inexpressible. What do you guys think about those two?
Well, that would be kind of like a description if the church were to be removed. I mean, how else could that be? What words would you use if you're left behind? You know?
Speechless.
Yeah.
Speechless.
They would be speechless.
Unspeakable.
What do you think, Larry?
Yeah, that's interesting. One of the other things, too, and I don't want to break your train of thought, but one of the other options that seems to be in all this scenario of events that are coming together about the very same time is also an arrival scenario.
Yes.
Or a disclosure of some type. And interestingly, you were talking about the people that have become missing in a lot of the parks that are missing. They're assumed dead, but nobody really exactly knows, you know. And oddly enough, Dr. Michael Salla, who basically, you know, he follows UFOs, and of course he does have a lot of information from whistleblowers and people on the inside that discuss the information of the so-called alien groups that meet together and have some type of coalition, and the meetings they've been having, but also dovetailed into all this information, it seems to be, according to whistleblowers, that a lot of the missing people that are never found, and I have noticed because I'm a investigator myself and have been for years, that none, almost zero cases are broken or have any evidence of any kind, and even some of those cases, it seems, in law enforcement are devalued to where they basically don't even look. And with that being said, then a lot of the whistleblower information is these people are being taken off-world and used on, well, the moon and Mars and other locations. And I know me saying this kind of goes way overboard to a lot of people and the way they think. But what about the arrival scenario? Does that play into the picture?
Well, I think so. What do you think, Steve? I would say conclusively yes. If you go into Thessalonians and the strong delusion is for them and they, kind of like in Thessalonians, the sudden destruction cometh upon them, cometh upon they. The only thing I can come up with as sudden destruction worldwide, which it is the taking of the church. It comes as without any warning whatever. There is nothing really tied to that. A lot of people attempt to tie all kinds of things to it. They may be right. I don't know. It could be Ezekiel 38:39. Could be Isaiah 17. Could be Daniel. But it doesn't have to be. That's my point. It comes as sudden destruction upon a world like Noah. They had no idea that they were going to be swimming around for a little while before they drowned. Lot left Sodom and Gomorrah, but the people left behind had no idea they were going to be destroyed. It came as in an instant of time. Boom. Well, this is how the rapture or the taking of the church is described. It's a violent, and I do mean violent. If you do a word study on all that, the taking of the church is a very violent snatching away. And it can come without any, in fact, it will come without any warning to the world at large at all. They have no clue. It's a blind side. And so when you look at all that, you begin to wonder. I mean, you know, we've had things come and go, as we all know, but the Lord said, occupy until I return. Well, part of occupying, my brothers and sisters out there in radio land, is watch. Jesus said, what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch. And there is a blessing for those who are watching and looking at events and looking at timelines, et cetera, et cetera. So those who mock all those that are watching got a problem with the Lord. They don't have a problem with the people they're pouncing on. In fact, we're seeing more and more of brother beating up brother now, just as the scriptures would say. Anyway, anything else you got, Steve? This Obama thing is really kind of troublesome.
I have a couple things that I really want to be able to share. And so, as you were saying, okay, we need to watch. In the Greek concordance, if you look up the word watch, when Jesus says you watch and pray and, you know, pray that you may be worthy to escape all of these things, and he tells us to watch. Well, if you go to the Greek concordance, it's number 1127, and it's actually the word Gregorio. Gregorio. So what does that tell me? Well, I think that God wants us to watch the calendars and to watch his appointed times. I mean, that speaks very loud and clearly to me that when you're looking at the word watch, it's connected to the word Gregorio, that there's something tied to the calendars that we need to understand. And so these types of connections are the things that come out as we watch according to, biblical understanding. And so we've talked about Nisan 10. It was the day that the Passover lamb was chosen. It was the day they entered into the promised land. It was the day of the triumphal entry. And it was also the day of Barack Obama's abomination event when he went into the Church of the Nativity on March 22nd, 2013. He went into the Church of the Nativity, and at the birthplace of Jesus Christ in Bethlehem, he did not bow. He did not show reverence. He stood where he ought not, okay? That was also a Nisan 10 event. Even though it happened on the Gregorian calendar of March 22nd, that lines up with a 322 skull and bones, Georgia Guidestones, that whole thing, But on the Hebrew calendar, it was Nisan 10. That was like a triumphal entry day, where he triumphantly entered into and wanted to be in place of Christ, because that's what antichrist means, instead of Christ, to take the place of Christ, to be an antichrist, right? So that was also a Nisan 10 event. Now, one of the signature events of Barack Obama, because the Bible says that the Antichrist, the little horn, when he comes in, Daniel shows us that he comes in peaceably, right?
Yep.
And so one of the signature events of Barack Obama, even at the very beginning of his presidency and the very beginning of his time on the world stage, was the Nobel Peace Prize. Okay?
Yes.
And when he received his Nobel Peace Prize, he said this is the first time in history that anybody has received a Nobel Peace Prize, not for what they have done, but for what they are going to do.
That's right.
Okay? So he was given this Peace Prize ahead of time based on a promise of what he was going to do. And this was actually exactly biblically 1,260 days before the abomination event where Obama went to Israel into the Church of the Nativity on March 22nd. This was October 9th, 2009. Now, there's something interesting of the connection between these 2 days, okay? October 9th, 2009, when he received his Nobel Peace Prize, that was the 7th day of Tabernacles. Then 1,260 days later, he went to Bethlehem, was at the Church of the Nativity, the birthplace of Jesus Christ, and that was Nisan 10. Well, on the Hebrew calendar, there are only 2 days in their calendar during the year when they will say, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." And that is the 7th day of Tabernacles and Nisan 10. Just as they said when they waved the palm branches on Palm Sunday, everybody's going to be saying that this coming Sunday. I mean, we're 2 days away from our own Palm Sunday. We're 4 days away from the true Palm Sunday in Israel, Nisan 10. But everybody in the world who's Christian, who's going to be celebrating Holy Week, this coming week, they're going to be saying on Sunday, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord."
Wow.
So those 2 days, divided by 1,260 days, plus the 2 events that Obama had on those days, those are the only 2 days on the Hebrew calendar that it is said, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." Now,
well, there's another. Yeah,
I have a connection here from April 11th, 2022. Okay, this big event, and this was one of the things that I saw, and I'm like, I gotta call Stuart. I gotta see if we can get something together here, because this mystery seems like something may be happening now. We may have found some clues here to this mystery of 4/11. So April 11th, 2022, the day of the triumphal entry, the day when it is said, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." If you go back 4,567 days, now in the Strong's Concordance, 4567 is the number of Satan. Okay? 4567. If you go Strong's 4567, it's Satanas. It's Satan. Okay? So this is the number of Satan. So what do you know that from Obama's signature event, when he entered peaceably and received his Nobel Peace Prize on October 9th, 2009, from that day going forward, 4,567 Satan days, it brings us exactly to April 11th, 2022.
Yeah. That may be why he went to the White House. Like you said, 7-day warning.
Exactly.
This is going to get fascinating. And you also said, was it Strong's 1127? You just mentioned it a little bit ago. That's a 9/11. It's just
Yeah.
It's just in code. It's 9/11.
And actually, if you put my name into a gematria calculator, Steve Fletcher, I have a few different numbers that are associated with my name, but one of the numbers that is associated with my name is 1127, Gregorio, watch. In Hebrew, it means watch.
9/11, yes,
and so
watch.
that's part of. I've realized that that's part of my calling. That's part of my my purpose and why I do what I do, even though I, like you've said countless times, why I get attacked, But I continue to do what I'm called to do, and it doesn't matter what people say because I know I'm onto something. And I know that God is going to, the Bible says he who seeks shall find, right?
Yep, that's what it says.
I don't stop seeking. People tell me to stop seeking. But the Bible says if you continue to seek, you will find. So it doesn't matter how many people come against me. Okay.
Yeah. Yep, I've been attacked ever since I began the ministry. You just get attacked. I had whole websites devoted to attacking me. The Lord said, you just tell the truth, and I'll take care of the consequences. And so that's all I've done. I don't even worry about people who get mad or attack or whatever, don't like the way I act, whatever. I could care less. But here's another sign out of Washington. I want you and Larry to comment on this. Maybe it's a stretch, maybe it isn't. Rabid fox bites 9 people on U.S. Capitol Hill. Rabies is a mind destroyer. Now here's some of the symptoms: fever, headache, excess, to ring into New World Order, Great Reset. They have perilous, I can't even pronounce it now, mental confusion. That's Washington. That's what's going on in Washington. They're totally paralyzed, and they are nothing but mental confusion at this point. Look at Biden wandering around at that deal with Obama, mentally confused. It infects the central nervous system of mammals, ultimately causing disease in the brain and death. Now, I just liken that as kind of a warning as to what we're dealing with in Washington. Why now? Why 9? What do you think? Am I stretching way out there?
No, listen. I just found something amazing. Okay. In Luke 13, it talks about foxes, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And we know that fox, the number fox is 666. Fox is 666, so it's a representation. But in Luke 13, starting in verse 31, okay, it says, at that time, some Pharisees approached, saying to him, go away and leave this place, because Herod wants to kill you. And he said to them, go and tell that fox, behold, I am casting out demons and performing healings today and tomorrow, and on the third day I reach my goal. Nevertheless, I must go on my journey today and tomorrow and the next day, for it cannot be that a prophet would perish outside Jerusalem. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who have been sent to her, how often I wanted to gather your children together, just as a hen gathers her young under her wings, and you were unwilling. Behold, your house is left to you desolate, and I say to you, you will not see me until you say, blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Did you guys hear? I mean, we just talked about this a few minutes ago. I didn't even make the connection with the foxes. I haven't even looked up. I mean, there's so many things happening. I'm trying to stay on top of all of these stories. Some other people sent me information about the foxes, but I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do with that right now, and I didn't. But look at where we are. Okay, we are coming up on the triumphal entry. We're coming up on the day when it is said, and everyone said to Jesus, "Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord." And
Yes.
the saying here says, "You will not see me until you say, 'Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord.'" Okay. Now, just a few days before Holy Week, we have all of these foxes in Washington, D.C., biting the people, and they're rabid foxes, and it's a big headline coming out in the news just before Holy Week.
Yes.
And even the connection to the foxes, he says, "Go and tell that fox, on the third day I will reach my goal."
Wow.
You see how it's all
what do you
connected?
think, Larry? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
I think that's really, really interesting, and I would I have seen some reports in the media, world media, that refer to Putin as a fox, and I think Steve had some information on Putin in all of his videos and some of his scenarios, but so I would be interested in that to see where Putin might fit in and what he's looking at. But another thing I was going to mention is I don't know if Steve ever got to watch the movie narrated by Kevin Sorbo, but it was put on by a Christian group. It was excellent, and it was called Before the Wrath, and that basically was a documentary on the original Greek and how at the time of Jesus that all the hints and such were embedded in that movie in the as if it was the time it was happening instead of a future event. However, interestingly, I noticed the bride in that she never knew. She absolutely, because this plays out. It's called Before the Wrath. If anybody ever wants, you can get it on DVD or possibly on stream. But it is really excellent, and it shows how that this is such a mystery and such a secret that it's possible you know the season, but as far as the very moment, actually the bride in the movie didn't know that the father had told the son to go get his bride, and it was a very unusual time of day or night, and he actually came so quickly the village didn't even know he was there yet.
Yeah. Torchlight parade. He comes without warning. The Father sends him. So this is going to get very, very interesting. We have about 6-7 minutes left. Did you have some more for us, Steve? Fascinating.
One other thing I wanted to share. I want to make sure to get this in. I know a lot of people are looking at. You mentioned it at the beginning, and there's a lot of different ideas or possibilities that people go through about how long will the Great Tribulation be, and some say 7 years, and others say 3.5 years. And I'm really focusing more on the 3.5 year time frame because there are two things that are shown to us in Revelation. Revelation 12:6 says the woman fled into the wilderness where she had a place prepared by God that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And 1,260 days is a biblical 42 months. Yep. And this is also what is shown that the beast is given 42 months to continue. And so to me it seems like this is more the time frame of the Great Tribulation and not the full 7 years. Well, okay, so if we want to look at this detail and try to see what happens if we connect it to April 11th or 12th of 2022, once the rapture of the church occurs, Revelation 12:6 says that the woman will be taken to the wilderness to be protected for 1,260 days or 3.5 years. What happens exactly 1,260 days after Nisan 10, April 11th and 12th, 2022? If you go from April 11th and April 12th, 2022, and you go forward 1,260 days, it brings us to the exact same day of the star sign that we had in 2017. It's September 23rd, 2025, and it is also the first day of the 7th month, the Feast of Trumpets on the Hebrew calendar. So this is a detail that we are shown in Revelation, how long the woman is taken into the wilderness. So will the rapture be connected to an appointed time that is 1,260 days before what could be the return of the King, the return of Jesus Christ on the Feast of Trumpets? 1,260 days prior to that is April 11th, Nisan 10, the day of the triumphal entry. Okay, so that is a key detail in all of this. So it's like I see the things that are coming up ahead of April 11th kind of leading us to it, and then if we go from April 11th forward, we also have these connections.
Yes.
And then the last thing before I close here is that there's an incredible lineup of planets this month, really. I don't see anything specific about the April 11th and April 12th, but if we look at all the planets, we're going to see that Uranus, Mercury, and the Sun are all lined up in between Aries and Pisces. Then we have Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces. And then in Aquarius, we have Venus, Mars, and Saturn. I mean, if we want to count them out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 heavenly bodies within 3 constellations. It's a
and if you had the moon, you got 9, right? If you had the moon and the sun, you got 9.
Well, the sun is there. The sun is there right next to Mercury in Pisces. So this is the timing of Pisces with the sun. Uranus, Mercury, the sun, Neptune, Jupiter, Venus, Mars, and Saturn. And 8 perfectly lined up there in the heavens right now in April. So.
Well, it's all kind of interesting, and we're getting all kinds of signs. I can remember when I went out online and said that song that Susan Boyle had sung on 4/11, I think that was in 2009, that was a warning to everyone. Nobody knew who she was. She came out of nowhere. That's only the Lord can do that. And everybody heard that song. And it was a swan song for humanity. I had a dream. And Satan comes along and destroys humanity's dream. Folks, we're a fallen race. We're fallen creatures. And we are nearing the end of civilization's probation, our present. Anyway, thanks a lot for coming on. Any last word, quick, Steve? I'd say heads up.
I say heads up. Barack Obama's book that he just that he just came out in, what was it, 2020 or 2021, called The Promised Land. And so the Israelites went into the Promised Land on Nisan 10. I wonder if the book is also pointing to the same time frame. And that's about it. I got. Thanks for having me on. This has been great.
Okay. Larry, last word.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting, especially the timing, because Glazerson and some of the other rabbis have duly noted for a year now that 2022 was very important, and I think Israel probably just clicked over to 2023, or am I not right? Maybe not yet.
Yeah, on their religious calendar they have, yes. Yep. Folks, it's heads up. It's an exciting time. We're watching all kinds of signs coming and going, and most people, of course, don't believe in those kind of signs. You're just stretching, they say, like the foxes biting nine people in Washington. Well, all we have in Washington are rats. It's too bad there aren't more foxes eating the rats in there, I guess. Anyway, thanks a lot, everyone, for listening. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Larry. And take care, everyone. Heads up.